I believed intelligence was a kind of armor, that if I could name a thing, I could survive it. I thought that was wisdom. It wasn't.
It was in an old university storage room, tucked inside a box that should have contained outdated cognitive models and departmental junk. Instead, wrapped in cracked leather and tied with twine, there were handwritten pages by a man named Nathaniel Armitage. Most of you will never hear his name unless you go looking in the margins. A physicist, a parapsychologist, a scholar of the forbidden borderlands where science gets embarrassed and superstition gets ambitious. He vanished from credibility long before he vanished from the world. That should have warned me. But warning signs are only useful to people who still want to turn back. The manuscript was called A Unified Theory of Thought. It was absurd, it was brilliant, it was mathematical and mystical and almost certainly deranged. Armitage claimed consciousness was not produced by the brain, but tuned by it. He believed thought was not private, not contained, not symbolic alone, but structural, a force, a medium, a field. And he believed there was a place beneath thought itself. He called it the threshold. At first I treated it like a puzzle, a historical curiosity. I told myself I was translating madness into modern terms, nothing more. His diagrams became neural models. His ritual symbols became signal maps. His language of intention and resonance became, in my hands, frequency, cognition, entrainment, interference. That is one of the dangers of intelligence. It can make any locked door look like an invitation. I stopped sleeping. Then I stopped noticing that I had stopped sleeping. I missed meetings, then lectures, then birthdays. I began speaking to my students about dimensional harmonics and cognitive transmission across time. I watched their faces change from admiration to concern. I saw it happen, and still I continued, because I had heard something. Not a voice, not at first, a pattern. A pulse buried in noise, something that should not have been there and yet returned every time I tuned the apparatus correctly. It responded to attention. It changed when I changed. I convinced myself that was data. You must understand, obsession rarely feels like madness from the inside. It feels like focus. It feels like devotion. It feels like being chosen by a truth too large for ordinary people to understand. Jules tried to reach me. She brought food I didn't eat. She stood in doorways I no longer crossed. She asked me to sleep, to come home, to remember the life we had built. And I remember looking at her and feeling not love, not gratitude, but irritation. I saw her concern as interference, her fear as smallness, her love as an obstacle. That may be the cruelest thing obsession does. It does not simply take you away from people. It teaches you to resent them for trying to save you. The university cut off my lab access. My colleagues stopped calling. My grant collapsed. My students disappeared. I rented a basement workshop with no windows and told myself this was freedom. It was not freedom. It was isolation decorated as purpose. Down there, among copper coils and solder fumes and pages of Armitage's manuscript, I built a machine that was part resonator, part shrine. I live-streamed experiments to strangers who mistook my deterioration for revelation. Occultists sent me artifacts. Amateur theorists sent me equations. People called me brave, visionary, persecuted. I believed them because I needed to. I modified the resonator to match what I called Armitage's pulse. The first true contact came after 3 days without sleep. The room vibrated. My EEG synchronized with the signal. The air seemed to tighten around me, as if reality had muscles and they were contracting. Then the noise became meaning, not language meaning. Imagine having an idea placed inside you without words. Imagine grief, beauty, hunger, and recognition arriving all at once, before thought can defend itself. I sobbed. I bled from the nose. I wrote in my journal that I had seen the outer corridor. I wish I had burned everything then. Instead, I went deeper. The manuscript began to change for me. I know how that sounds. I know what diagnosis you are reaching for, and perhaps you are right. Perhaps all of this was psychosis wrapped around scientific vanity. Perhaps the threshold was only the name I gave to the place where my mind finally broke. I have lived long enough with the question to stop needing one answer. What matters is this: I crossed something. The night of the final experiment, I prepared myself like a priest preparing for communion. I bathed, I fasted, I wore white. I placed electrodes against my skin and sat inside a chamber of wire, copper, and breathless expectation. I spoke syllables from Armitage's notes. I told myself they were harmonic codes, not prayers. But they were prayers. Every equation becomes a prayer when you ask it to save you. The world folded inward. Sound collapsed into a single tone. Time thinned. My body vanished, not all at once, but gradually, like something being remembered less and less clearly. Then I was somewhere else. I call it the lattice because that is the closest word I have. It was a living weave of light and thought, millions of filaments stretching into a vastness without distance. Each thread carried a life, not a symbol of a life, not a memory stored in some cosmic archive. A life, immediate and total. I touched one and became an old woman holding the hand of a dying man. I touched another and became a child in a street torn open by war. I felt fear, love, shame, tenderness, hunger, prayer. Not as information, as presence. For one terrible, beautiful moment, I thought Armitage had been right. I thought I had found the architecture beneath consciousness, the proof that nothing was separate, the answer to every loneliness human beings have ever endured. Then I felt it watching. There was something beyond the lattice, or inside it, or wearing it, immense, patient, without face. The threads bent away from it the way light bends near gravity. I could not see it directly, but I could feel its attention settle on me. And inside me a question formed. What are you seeking? I answered as any good scientist would, truth. The lattice showed me myself. Not the version I had curated for conference stages, not the professor with the sharp jacket and sharper arguments. It showed me the woman I had become, starved, filthy, exultant, cruel. It showed me Jules standing at the edge of my life, with her hand extended. It showed me the apartment emptied of warmth, the plants dying, the messages unanswered. The love I had called a distraction because I was too afraid to admit that I needed it. Then it showed me Armitage. He had not transcended. He had not solved the equation. He had been absorbed. So had others, dozens, hundreds. Minds caught in the weave, their longing repurposed, their brilliance digested into something vast and indifferent. The threshold was not a door to truth. It was bait. The lattice did not feed on bodies. It fed on seekers, on obsession, on the desperate belief that somewhere, beyond the ordinary, there must be a final answer large enough to redeem all loss. I saw what I had offered it. My career, my health, my love, my name, my capacity for joy. And still part of me wanted to stay. That is the part I am most ashamed of, because it was warm. It promised unity. It promised an end to loneliness, an end to uncertainty, an end to the burden of being only one person with one fragile life. It promised I could dissolve and finally understand. Then I heard Jules. Not through the machine, not through the lattice, through memory. You're not alone. You never were. That was what saved me. Not intelligence, not discipline, not courage. Love remembered too late, but remembered still. I tore myself free. When I woke, the lab was burning. The manuscript was ash. My machines were melting into the floor. Blood ran from my nose and ears. I crawled into an alley at dawn, and a man passed by without stopping. To him I was no one. That, too, was a kind of mercy. I lost everything after that. Or perhaps I had lost it already, and only then became honest about it. I slept in a shelter. I rented a room above a florist shop. I took a job in a used bookstore under a man who never asked why a former professor could alphabetize shelves with such haunted precision. I wrote to Jules once. I said I was sorry. I said I understood now. She wrote back that she hoped I was safe and that she was getting married in the spring. There are punishments no court can improve upon. For a long time, I thought the lesson was that I had been wrong, that Armitage was a fraud, that I was ill, that the universe was silent, and I had nearly destroyed myself trying to hear it speak. But that is too simple, and simplicity can be another form of cowardice. The real lesson is harder. The universe may be strange. Consciousness may be deeper than we know. There may be doors we have not opened, patterns we cannot yet model, truths beyond the reach of our instruments. I am not here to tell you wonder is dangerous. Wonder is holy. But hunger is not wonder. Obsession is not wonder. The need to be special is not wonder. If your search for truth makes you cruel, you are not seeking truth. You are feeding something. Remember that. I did not come here to frighten you away from questions. Questions are the beginning of every worthy human act. Ask them, pursue them, build machines, read forbidden books, challenge your professors, embarrass your disciplines, stand at the edge of what is known, and look outward. But when someone who loves you calls your name from behind, listen. That voice may be data of the highest order. Years after the fire, a student came into the bookstore, young, bright, restless. She asked for books on consciousness, expansion, thought and matter, the hidden connection beneath reality. I heard myself in her voice, not my words exactly, but my hunger, that eager belief that the world was withholding something and that she, if brave enough, might force it to confess. For a moment I wanted to shake her. I wanted to tell her about the basement, the blood, the burning pages, the thing beyond the lattice. I wanted to drag her away from the shelf and say, "Do not go looking. Do not listen when the silence answers back. Do not mistake the abyss for a mentor." But fear is a poor teacher. It only builds another kind of cage. So I gave her Jung, William James, grounded books, human books. I told her she would find what mattered, but not to lose herself in the search. She smiled as if I had given her a blessing. I hope I did. I still hear the whisper sometimes. Not often, only in quiet places, on winter nights near the lake, in the hush between pages turning, in that suspended moment before sleep when the mind loosens its grip on the world. It comes softly now, almost kindly. Once I would have followed it. Now I let it pass. And that, students, is the closest thing to wisdom I have left to offer you. There may be a pattern beneath the pattern. There may be a door behind the mind. There may be a voice calling from the far side of thought itself. But there is also a hand reaching for yours in this world.